Hello, everybody. My name is Jalen Jones, digital producer here at WRAL. If you're watching this video, like, subscribe for content you're not going to get anywhere else. What is more important, federal law, local law, state law? What is more important? Well, in this case, I have a wonderful conversation with Randall about asset forfeiture. And once those assets, let's say a drug bust happens, or money is recouped on that drug bust, where does that money go to? Does it go towards the police departments, or is it supposed to go to schools in North Carolina? Well, I dive into a very complex topic with Randall, our investigative senior reporter here at WRAL, and this is what he had to say. All right. First of all, Randall, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
How are you doing?
I can't complain.
Can't complain. So we're here to talk about seized items by police officers, by police departments,
Any law enforcement.
Any law enforcement. Let's say a crime scene happens, a crime on the scene. They're collecting items, cash, whether that may be drug related or going on. What's going on with these cases?
It's called civil asset forfeiture.
Okay.
And it basically means, and the idea behind it makes sense. You know, we don't want criminals profiting off their crime.
Yes.
So even if they get arrested, if they have money that's tied to their crimes, they shouldn't get that back. That shouldn't be a reward in many cases.
Yeah.
So police departments have the right to seize that property.
Okay.
But and there are two mechanisms to do it. One of them is under state law. And in those cases, if Raleigh police pulled someone over at a traffic stop, they found some marijuana and $10,000 in the car, they could seize that money, charge the driver. They would hold that money until the driver was convicted.
Okay.
If they're not convicted, they get their money back.
Yeah.
If they get convicted, RPD, that money comes back to the county, and under state law, the majority of that would go to a local school system. Law enforcement can recoup some of the money for investigation costs.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense. But under state law, the rest of that money would go to the local school system.
Okay, so let's take a quick step back before we move forward. Investigation costs. I can imagine that's overtime and dealing with the case, you know.
It could be anything. I mean,
it could be anything.
Like a traffic stop is something that wouldn't have a lot of investigation costs in theory.
Pretty simple.
But if it was a undercover controlled buys with informants, and it was something that they were working on for a long time,
okay,
those costs could add up. If they're spending money as part of drug buys, that are undercover buys, that's money they could recoup.
Absolutely. So those operating expenses, that's what law enforcement needs to recoup. They get first dibs. Am I correct? So they get first dibs. And then the rest is supposed to go towards schools.
Right.
Is that happening?
Sometimes.
So basically the point of this report is like, I wasn't aware of this. Mm-hmm. Number one, the public need to be aware, and also where the money is going for their public services.
Well, here's why I answer sometimes.
Sometimes.
So we have a state law.
Okay.
Federal agencies, the DEA, ATF, FBI, they also have a civil forfeiture process.
Oh.
That's very different than the states.
So that's two extra hands going into that pot.
So what we're seeing, in the last fiscal year, RPD made almost $1 million by partnering with federal agencies on some of their seizures. Okay. So under federal law, if that same traffic stop we discussed where there's $10,000 in the car, RPD could go, well, but if we partner with the DEA on this, if the DEA it's called adopting the case. If they adopt the case, the feds can seize the money, with no criminal conviction. They don't have to. The driver wouldn't even have to be charged. And that's the problem that a lot of people have with the law, is that it's a punishment without any conviction. There has to be no proof of anything if they get a federal agency to adopt it. And but why wouldn't the federal agency could do absolutely no work on that case? They could get contacted by a local police department, say, hey, we just made this big bust. Do you want to adopt it? Sure thing. They adopt it. They actually file a civil lawsuit in federal court against the property. That's all. So they're suing an amount of money, a vehicle, a house. And without any conviction, any charges against anyone, that money or that piece of property is essentially gone. And
Okay.
I know, I mean, gone.
You know,
and that's what people don't understand with this. And that's why while no one wants criminals to profit from this, the federal system, while it has guidelines that have to be followed, once that money is seized and sued, it's gone. And under this program called equitable sharing, once that happens and the case is over, it's just a civil case again. So there's nothing criminal here that's going on. A person could be charged criminally, but it doesn't have to be for federal cases.
Okay.
They adopt the case, that $10,000 that RPD got in that traffic stop.
Yeah.
The federal agency keeps about 15 to 20% of it.
15 to 20%.
So they would get $1,500, that $8,500, right back to the law enforcement agency, not the schools.
Because they went through the federal route, which has a whole different set of guidelines.
It essentially allows them to bypass state law, which would give money to the school system. Now, we talked to the Nash County Sheriff about the program, and he has I-95 running through his county, so they do a lot of drug interdiction there. And he looks at it as a win-win because the money that they're getting as part of equitable sharing, well, now the county doesn't have to buy new equipment for the police department. They could maybe move that money to another service that the county needs.
For sure.
So he calls it a win-win. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of naysayers who think that the way the federal program is run, it encourages what's called policing for profit, where you take everything you can, get a federal agency to adopt it, and then you get to keep it. Yeah. It's a really fine line because, like you said, we don't want criminals profiting from anything. But in federal cases, when someone's not even charged with a crime, how do we even know they're a criminal?
100%.
That's the question. That's the conundrum here.
We live in a country with due process.
Yep.
And you got to go by the process.
But this process is not due.
This process is not due. I can only imagine what the public thinks when they watch or they hear your reporting about what's going on, because obviously at the end of the day, they're serving the people. And, the politicians are determining this as a win-win, or, can the public determine this as a win-win? I don't know. That's a little bit opinionated, a little bit opinionated with that because the teachers are like, hey, we can use this money too.
Yeah, and that's and part of the problem is several states have enacted laws that ban their agencies from partnering with the feds.
Okay.
So basically, you can still seize things, mm-hmm. but we're going to do it the way the state does it, and the way the state does it means that all that money goes back to schools. Some states have done it. There was an effort in North Carolina 5 years ago that would have put some more handcuffs on the process. It wouldn't have banned them from partnering federally. Mm-hmm. It put thresholds on money and stuff like that, just so it wasn't a grab bag. You couldn't grab for anything that you wanted. Didn't even get out of committee. And lawmakers, in this debate, and we've talked to them over the years on this topic, despite a few years ago when we had a lot of calls for defunding the police.
Yes.
It's kind of political suicide for a lot of people. Look at it as that way if we defund police. So they don't want to do anything that's going to take away or tie the hands of law enforcement, even if it benefits the kids or classrooms. Mm-hmm. So it's a really, really tough, the expert that we talked to, and you'd think with the group that he works for that he would be fine with this. But they look at the federal asset seizure as essentially a violation of constitutional rights.
Yes.
Because you can have your property taken with no evidence of crime, you getting charged with nothing, and I would probably say 99.9% of the time when the feds get their hands on the money, you're not seeing it again.
It's gone. Okay, well, let's continue on that point. Let's talk about the sound you got for this story. What sound did you get for this story that helps kind of put this in a context for the public?
Yep. So we talked to a legal fellow, a researcher who has written, I think, about 13 or 14 different papers over the years. He's followed this process for years. And he basically lays out the pros and cons. So if you watch this story, you're not going to get one side, but he believes in both sides. He just thinks we need to have a program that maybe has a little bit more direction to it. Mm-hmm. So you'll hear it and hear what he has to say. And then, like I mentioned, we talked to the Nash County Sheriff, Keith Stone, about what his department uses the money for. And because under this program, the federal program, agencies have to use this money for training or for supplies. They can't keep a slush fund sitting around somewhere. I mean, they have to put it to policing use. I mean, we went through, after I saw the fact that Raleigh Police led all state agencies for the past 2 years in federal seizures and money back.
Wonder why.
RPD led the state 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. I mean, not the SBI, you'd think would get called in on the biggest cases.
Yes.
Not Highway Patrol, who has interactions all the time with drivers on all the interstates. It was Raleigh Police, and so we sent them a list of questions, including what they use the money for. What do they say to critics who call this policing for profit? So we'll have their answers in this story as well.
Love it. Yeah.
So it's a really well-rounded story, and a lot of times when you work on stories like this, you're kind of incredulous. You're like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yes.
This is one of those topics, and that's why it's been so hard to get a handle on how to make it work better or fix it.
Okay.
Because you can see the benefits and the arguments on both sides.
And I'll take a time out there. I can imagine this money's being used for good reasons.
Absolutely.
Training, policing needs more training than ever. Equipment, everything needs to be up to date. You obviously safety is the most important thing in the community.
Yep.
Make sure everybody's safe. So I think there's no questions about, is this money being put to good use? It's what should it be put towards,
and how it's acquired. There are certainly questions how the federal system works.
Yeah, well, this story is fascinating. First of all, thank you so much for
absolutely
digging into this. You guys can catch this full reporting on WRAL.com. And Randall, is there anything else that you want to talk to the people?
No,
Let the people
support Team USA.
The support Team USA. It is the Winter Olympics, so we are Team USA. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
I can't wait to watch and read all this reporting as well. And if you're watching this video and you're listening to this podcast, man, we'll love to hear from you and see the public reaction. And also, if you know more context on this story as well and you want to be a voice on it, WRAL.com/reporter. We'll love to hear from you.
Yeah. If you're a person who had something taken, you weren't charged with any crimes, come to us. Tell us your story.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
All right, Jalen.